My toxic college roommate secretly dropped my highlighted final semester study guides into the campus recycling bin the night before exams. There is a sickening wave of absolute panic that hits your chest when you wake up at 4:30 a.m. on the most important exam morning of your academic life, only to find that your entire semester's worth of work has completely vanished. For 4 months, I lived in a high-pressure university dorm room, balancing a demanding pre-medical curriculum, maintaining a flawless GPA, and hand-annotating hundreds of pages of highly complex biochemistry study guides. With our final comprehensive board equivalence exam scheduled to begin at precisely 8 a.m., my entire future depended on that final pre-dawn review. But when I reached for my color-coded organizational binder, my desk was entirely bare. My toxic, highly competitive roommate, Chloe, was pretending to be fast asleep, completely unbothered. A digital trace of our dormitory's automated smart lock logs revealed she had exited our room at 2:14 a.m., carrying a heavy bundle. She had quietly thrown my primary study guides directly into the main campus recycling compactor to sabotage my ranking and clear her own path to the class valedictorian title. She thought the physical destruction of my notes would instantly shatter my academic performance, but she completely underestimated how a modern student utilizes security footage and digital backups to protect her hard-earned future. My name is Maya. I am 22 years old, and at the time of this incident, I was a final semester undergraduate student majoring in advanced biochemical sciences at a highly competitive regional university. My entire academic career was oriented around a single, unyielding objective: securing a top-tier placement for a prestigious postgraduate research fellowship that accepted only one student from our graduating class. The selection criteria were absolute, relying heavily on our final cumulative GPA and our performance on the comprehensive end-of-year departmental evaluation. Because the stakes were incredibly high, my daily routine was governed by extreme discipline. I spent every spare hour in the university library, carefully synthesizing complex lecture materials, highlighting critical metabolic pathways, and building a master study binder that contained the entire blueprint for our final exam. My residential life, however, was a constant exercise in psychological endurance. My assigned dormitory roommate was a girl named Chloe. Chloe was an intensely competitive, ambitious student who also happened to be vying for the exact same postgraduate fellowship. For the first 2 years of college, we had maintained a polite, distant academic relationship. But as the final semester progressed and my practice evaluation scores consistently placed me 3 percentage points ahead of her, Chloe's demeanor shifted from cold detachment to active resentment. She began making subtle, passive-aggressive remarks about my study habits, consistently playing loud audio tracks during my designated reading hours, and intentionally rearranging our shared desk space to disrupt my focus. I remember sitting at my desk on the evening of June 7, 2026, precisely 12 hours before the final exam. I was carefully placing my brightly highlighted study guides into a secure, heavy-duty 3-ring binder, ensuring every section was indexed for my planned 5 a.m. final review session. Chloe stood near the dorm room mirror, slowly unpinning her hair while watching my reflection with an unreadable, intense expression. "You know, Maya, you're putting an absurd amount of pressure on a single paper," Chloe remarked, her voice dripping with an artificial calm sweetness. "Some people just naturally absorb the concepts without needing to color code their entire existence. It must be exhausting to be so terrified of losing your top spot." I kept my focus entirely on my binder, maintaining a perfectly level, professional tone. "Chloe, this exam covers 4 years of advanced molecular theory. The fellowship committee reviews the raw data, not natural placement. My notes ensure my consistency, and I am simply protecting my investment of time." Chloe didn't respond. She adjusted her desk lamp, turned her back toward me, and climbed into her bed. The room fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. I placed my master binder directly on the center of my study desk, right next to my laptop, before turning off my light at 11:00 p.m. I believed our rivalry was confined to academic posturing, but I completely miscalculated the lengths to which an envious mind will go to eliminate its competition. The academic crisis materialized at exactly 4:30 a.m. on the morning of June 8. My automated alarm activated, its quiet hum waking me instantly. I sat up in the dim morning light, reached for my glasses, and walked over to my desk to begin my final, high-intensity review of our organic synthesis pathways. I reached out my hand toward the corner of the desk, but my fingers met empty space. My heart skipped a beat. I blinked, turning on my small desk lamp. The space next to my laptop was entirely clear. My master 3-ring binder, containing 4 months of exhaustive annotations, highlighted diagrams, and proprietary formula summaries, was completely gone. I checked my backpack, searched beneath the study chair, and emptied my storage drawers. Nothing. A cold wave of panic began to settle in my throat, but I immediately forced myself into an analytical mindset. I looked across the small room. Chloe was buried deep beneath her comforter, breathing with a synchronized, exaggerated rhythm that signaled a feigned sleep. I pulled out my smartphone and opened the university housing portal dashboard. Our dormitory rooms had been upgraded over the winter semester with automated, Bluetooth-enabled smart locks that recorded every single entry and exit timestamp to ensure student safety. I navigated to the Room Access History tab. The digital log was unyielding. June 8, 2026, 2:14 a.m. Door unlocked from interior. Device, Chloe's keycard. 2:19 a.m. Door re-entered from exterior. Device, Chloe's keycard. I walked over to Chloe's bed, my voice dropping to a dangerous, icy level of absolute certainty. "Chloe, wake up!" She slowly pulled down the comforter, blinking with an affected, sleepy confusion. "Maya, what is wrong with you? The exam isn't for 3 hours. Turn off the lamp." At 2:14 a.m., "Your keycard logged you leaving this room for exactly 5 minutes?" I said, placing my phone directly in front of her face, showing the unalterable digital tracking data. "My master final exam study binder is missing from my desk." "Where is it?" Chloe sat up, a subtle, triumphant smirk flashing across her features, before she masked it with an expression of dismissive annoyance. "I don't know what to tell you, Maya. I woke up in the middle of the night to take out my personal trash down to the basement chute. I didn't touch your precious binders. Maybe you misplaced it in your frantic cramming yesterday. Don't project your test anxiety onto me." She rolled back over, pulling the blanket up to her chin. In that exact moment, I realized she wasn't just trying to rattle my confidence. She had actively destroyed my physical property to ensure my psychological collapse right before the exam doors opened. I did not waste a single second engaging in a useless emotional argument with her. With less than 3 hours remaining before the exam, emotional expenditure was a luxury I could not afford. I grabbed my student identification card, threw on a heavy jacket, and ran directly down the concrete stairwell to the dormitory's main basement disposal facility. The basement housed the building's centralized recycling infrastructure, a heavy, industrial-grade automated paper and plastic compactor facility. I pushed open the double doors, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. I rushed toward the blue bins designated for high-volume paper recycling. I peered inside the primary collector bin, and my stomach completely dropped. Resting at the very bottom of the heavy industrial compactor chute were hundreds of loose, torn pages. The heavy plastic spine of my 3-ring binder had been violently cracked open, and my meticulously highlighted biochemical diagrams were crumpled, stained, and mixed with general campus paper waste. The materials were physically unrecoverable in a coherent format. I stood in the quiet basement, the low hum of the compactor vibrating through the floor. Chloe had chosen the perfect target. She knew that without those physical summaries, a normal student would spend the next 2 hours spiraling into a panic-driven state of memory block. But Chloe had made one fatal, archaic assumption. She believed that because I utilized a physical paper binder for my active tactile studying, my intellectual property existed only in the physical world. I pulled out my phone, walked out of the basement, and headed straight toward the university's 24-hour digital learning commons. While I loved the tactile feel of reviewing paper notes with physical highlighters, I was, above all, a modern student. Every single Sunday evening during the semester, my standard operational protocol was to use a high-speed document scanner in the library to back up my handwritten notes into an encrypted cloud server as a PDF archive. I sat down at a high-end desktop station in the quiet learning commons, logged into my cloud account, and entered my secure dual-factor authentication tokens. At 5:15 a.m., the screen flashed green. Access approved. Folder, Advanced Biochemistry Master Archive, fully synced June 6, 2026. I opened the document file. Every single highlighted line, every color-coded margin note, and every complex molecular formula layout was rendered in perfect, high-definition digital clarity. I connected my student account to the Learning Commons commercial-grade laser printers, hit print, and watched as my entire semester's work began printing out in pristine, organized sheets. But I wasn't just going to take my notes and go to the exam room. Chloe had crossed a line from aggressive academic competition into malicious property destruction, and the university's code of student conduct possessed clear, unyielding policies regarding academic integrity. While the high-speed printer completed its cycles, I utilized the adjacent desktop terminal to pull up the campus housing security request portal. I filed an emergency student conduct incident report for malicious property interference and academic sabotage. This is Maya, a senior biochemistry undergraduate resident in room 412. I typed into the formal compliance form. At approximately 2:14 a.m. on June 8, my roommate, Chloe, removed my academic materials from my desk without authorization and disposed of them in the basement recycling infrastructure. I am attaching the smart lock entry metadata timestamps showing her exiting the room, and I am requesting an immediate manual review of the corridor security camera footage by the resident director on duty. By 6:45 a.m., I had my newly printed study guides neatly bound in a fresh folder. I walked back toward our dormitory building to gather my examination materials. As I reached the fourth-floor corridor, I saw the university resident director, Dr. Aris, standing directly outside our dorm room door, accompanied by a campus security officer. The door opened, and Chloe walked out wearing her university blazer, her face completely bright and confident as she prepared to walk to the examination hall. She looked at me, her eyes dropping to the fresh folder in my hand, and her expression instantly froze in a state of absolute shock. "Chloe," Dr. Aris said, his voice echoing down the quiet corridor with strict professional gravity. "We received an emergency digital tracking alert and a formal incident report from your roommate regarding property interference this morning. We have just completed a manual review of the hallway closed-circuit television footage from 2:14 a.m. Chloe's face turned an immediate, deathly pale white. "Dr. Aris, I told Maya I was just taking out my personal trash. It's an administrative misunderstanding. The high-definition camera directly above your door captures you exiting the room holding a large, distinct white 3-ring binder with neon green indexing tabs, matching Maya's documented study materials," the resident director stated, holding up a digital tablet displaying a crystal-clear screenshot of the video footage. "You are then seen traveling to the basement and returning empty-handed. This is a direct violation of Section 4 of the University Student Conduct Code regarding the intentional disruption of another student's academic progress." The atmosphere in the hallway became completely frozen. Chloe looked at the tablet screen, then looked at the campus security officer, her carefully constructed aura of academic superiority completely shattering right before my eyes. "Dr. Aris, please," Chloe whispered, her voice trembling as she realized the absolute gravity of the situation. "The final exam starts in less than an hour. If I am delayed, I will miss the fellowship application deadline. It was just a competitive lapse in judgment. Your administrative processing will take place immediately in the housing office," Dr. Aris replied, entirely unyielding. "The university takes academic sabotage with the utmost seriousness. You will accompany us down to the department right now. Your professor will be notified of your administrative hold status." I didn't utter a single word of anger, and I didn't engage in a petty display of triumph. I simply looked at Chloe, adjusted my fresh study guides under my arm, walked past her into our room to grab my examination pens, and headed straight toward the science auditorium. When I sat down at my designated desk in the grand examination hall at 7:45 a.m., my mind was perfectly clear, calm, and hyper-focused. The printing process had actually served as an unexpected mental reinforcement, forcing me to review the structural layout of my notes just hours prior. When the head proctor announced the commencement of the test and the hundreds of students flipped over their test packets, I took a deep breath and began writing. For 4 hours, my pen moved across the pages with absolute precision. Every complex pathway, every thermodynamic calculation, and every molecular structure that Chloe had thrown into the recycling bin was engraved perfectly into my memory. My digital backup protocol had insulated me completely from her malice. I finished the examination with 30 minutes to spare, turning in a flawless, comprehensive performance paper to the department chair. It has been 3 weeks since the morning of the biochemistry final exam, and the academic landscape has cleared into a reality of absolute justice, victory, and independent success. Yesterday afternoon, the Department of Biochemical Sciences officially released the final graduation rankings and fellowship distributions. I received a formal, gold-embossed congratulatory letter from the university dean. I had secured the single, coveted postgraduate research fellowship with the highest comprehensive exam score in the history of the department. My independent future was officially secured. Chloe's trajectory, however, was completely dismantled by her own choices. Following a formal hearing by the university's Academic Integrity Board, the security camera metadata and smart lock logs provided an open and shut case of malicious intent. Chloe was officially disqualified from the fellowship selection process. Her final semester grades were withheld pending a mandatory academic probation review, and she was issued an immediate, permanent eviction from the university housing network. She was forced to pack her belongings under the supervision of campus security and move off campus, her academic reputation within the department completely ruined. This morning, I stood in our empty dorm room, completing my final checkout checklist before moving into my new postgraduate residential suite. The sun was streaming through the window, illuminating the clean, bare desk where my notes had once sat. I picked up my laptop, slid my master binder into my leather bag, and looked out at the campus quad. Chloe had tried to use the archaic tool of physical destruction to erase my hard work and steal my position, but she ran directly into a modern wall of data accountability, structural planning, and absolute resilience. Envy can destroy physical paper, but it can never touch the intellect, the work ethic, and the digital preparation of the person who created it. My academic record is unassailable. My boundaries are fully protected, and the story of my career is being written beautifully, successfully, and exclusively by me.